Welcome to your Unit 2 video lesson where I'm going to cover some of the biggest empires that emerged during the time period of the Middle Ages, particularly in areas that encompass parts of Asia, Europe, and Africa. And I think the first one you have to start with is the Mongol Empire, which we'll do a couple slides on here. And it is also important to note that one of your practice application assignments that you will complete after watching this video is on the Mongols. Okay, so who were they? The Mongols were arguably the biggest empire, and actually not even arguably, most historians agree, the biggest land empire that was all connected that's ever been created in human history. They have a very, very short run. They only last about 100, 150 years, but they united through military conquests and alliances, and they're going to create the largest land empire ever, and it's going to connect. You can see it in red there in 1279 at the peak of its prowess, how massive and expansive their empire was. And they're going to connect and create avenues of exchange and trade and exposing of different religions across Asia and Europe. The Mongols are somewhat controversial in world history in terms of being positive or negative, if you want to use terms that are that simple, because their conquest caused widespread destruction and loss of life. I even read, preparing your assignment just a few hours ago, that people would often flee if they knew the Mongol army was on its way because they were so terrifying and so intimidating. But they did create a lot of cultural exchanges as well. And what's interesting about the Mongols is that they weren't really meant to last, handling an empire that large. And they had a lot of internal conflicts, especially after the death of Genghis Khan. There was a lot of pressure from external powers, and the lack of real consistent leadership, by the second part of the 1300s, really caused their empire to crumble. So it's the biggest landmass empire ever created, but it was not meant to last. And you can see on the bottom left here all of the countries today that encompass what was once the Mongol Empire. Now, I also want to talk about the leader that is synonymous with the Mongols, which would be Genghis Khan. Okay, Genghis Khan was the Mongol leader, he rose to power by being kind of the focal point of that empire building, uniting warring tribes under his leadership in the 12th century, the back part of the 1100s. He is noteworthy because, like I said on the last slide, he established the largest land empire in history. So because of that, he's noted and has gone down in fame as one of the greatest conquerors of all time. And he's very much admired for his military strategy. But the reality is his campaigns brought the death and destruction of millions and millions of people. What's also interesting is that you can actually find websites, are you related to Genghis Khan? Because some historians think that he maybe fathered, it's like in the thousands, 3 to 4,000, the most children of any human being in history, and that he is possibly right now in the world somewhere around 15 or 16 million descendants. So you can actually find websites and stuff that were, can you check your family legacy to Genghis Khan? So his impact on the world, both from a genealogy standpoint and then also a military and empire leader standpoint, are extremely significant. Genghis Khan in a nutshell. Another empire I wanted to mention in this lesson was going to be the Ottoman Empire, which centered around modern day Turkey, if you've heard of that country, which is partially in Europe, partially in Asia today. And the Ottomans are going to expand across Europe, Asia, and Africa, as you can see by this map, at its peak. And it's going to last for some time, all the way into about a little over 100 years ago, at least at the time of me recording this lesson, is when it completely fell. The Ottomans are known for a variety of things. They developed a very distinct architectural style. The Blue Mosque, which you can see pictured in this slide here, would be an example of Ottoman architecture. And they also achieved a lot in refining and expanding Islamic culture. The Ottoman Empire is very much associated with Islam, so there are connections that way. They encompass a lot of military innovations like fully utilizing gunpowder in battle and skilled cavalry. Uh, and their empire, similar to the Mongols, facilitated cultural exchanges between different continents. So it would make sense that an empire that fit at its peak in multiple continents saw a lot of cultural exchanges between those regions. And also, the Ottomans were noted for their efficiency in government. And one particular thing was their renovations and their updates to tax reforms, which of course we have taxes in government today, and the Ottomans were noted for that. They're also, from a medicine standpoint, this isn't on the slide, noted for their early achievements in the creation of these things called vaccines, which were certainly in the COVID-19 era a little bit more familiar with vaccines. So the Ottomans contributed to medicine, engineering, government reform, military reform. So a monumental civilization empire that existed for over 600 years. Bouncing to another part of the world that I want to discuss would be China, and in particular, their legendary Ming dynasty. Now, the Ming dynasty is noteworthy for a lot of things, but I always think of it as an era in China that saw a lot of achievement, some of which is still noteworthy and impactful today. They're not the first Chinese dynasty that started, that's going to be the Qin dynasty, the Great Wall. But in terms of the Great Wall of China that you can still visit today, the Ming Dynasty and their building of it is most connected with that stunning physical feature. Also, their use of porcelain, which is if you heard the phrase fine china before, I always think of porcelain with that, and some of their beautiful artwork. They also, Chinese history, excuse me, sometimes associated with isolation and being disconnected from the world, but Ming emperors actually encouraged exploration, like Zheng He, who has one of the most accomplished exploration journeys and stories of all time. But he's not as known as, like, say, Christopher Columbus or Marco Polo. So he's a fascinating character in history. And then finally, the Ming Dynasty also established civil service reform. So they basically revamped their government and tried to create programs where people that were working in government were actually qualified to be in it, sometimes having to pass certain tests to show qualification. And to go along with that, the Ming promoted bureaucratic efficiency, which basically meant they tried to clean up government, have different departments, have different roles and responsibilities to make sure their ruling of China was smoother. So the Ming Dynasty, I always think in a very positive light due to all of their achievements, both in art, physical structures, and their reforming of government. Finally, you want to know about your work for this unit. If I can make my face a little bit smaller there. You have two assignments that you need to do in association with Unit 2 of Semester 2 of Global Campus World History. Number one, you got a 5-point exit ticket based on what I just taught you. I would knock that out like immediately after this video ends, because it's all applicable to those slides that I just covered. And then secondly, I mentioned it, I think when I was doing slide 1, you have a little report, a grade book activity, a good and bad activity, a positive versus evil thing with the Mongols that's worth 10 points. So make sure you get both of those done, as well as watching the Zheng He video that's attached there before we're attacking and moving on to Unit 3 at all. Per usual, email me if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer and support you in any way. And whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, have a great rest of your day. Thank you.